Hello everyone, welcome to SS Multimedia. This is Harshita Shishala, and in this lesson we'll be learning how to multiply decimals with 10, 100 and 1000. The objective of today's lesson is learning to multiply decimals with 10, 100 and 1000. So if we have like 2.9 times 10, we won't actually do 2.9 times 10. So we won't be like 10 times 9 is 90, 10 times 2 is 20, 20 plus 9 is 29, and then we place the decimal point over here. So we're going to use easier methods and faster methods to answer these kind of questions. So let's get started. The first question says 9.85 times 100. Well, first of all, we're going to write 9.85 times 100. Okay? Now, we're going to count how many zeros there are. So there's 1, 2. That's how many times we're going to shift the decimal point to the right. So what do you mean decimal point? Shifting the decimal. Well, you basically like do this. So you shift the decimal point 2 times. So this is once and this is twice. This is basically shifting decimal points. And then so the decimal point ended up after 5, so that is our answer. The decimal point is going to be after 5, and our answer will be 985.0. Well, you don't need to write the 0 part. So that will be our answer. And I'm going to show you that even if you actually multiply using, let's do it like this, we're going to end up with the same answer. So 0 times 5 is 0, 0 times 8 is 0, 0 times 9 is 0. And then let's do that again. So now we have to multiply it by 1. 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 8 is 8, 1 times 9 is 9. 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0. I'm sorry about that. Okay, 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0 again. Okay. And then 0 plus 0 plus 5 is 5. 0 plus 8 is 8. Nothing plus 9 is 9. And then we put the decimal point after 5 because there are 2 decimal points over here. And that's our answer, 985. It's the same answer as this, except this method is much easier and much faster. So we should use shortcuts to do these kind of questions instead of actually doing the long methods. Okay, so our answer for the first question is 985. Now let's go on. Let's move to the second one. So the second question says 1.675 times 1,000. We do the same thing, write down 1.675 and then 1,000. Now let's count how many zeros there are. So 1, 2, 3. So that's how many times we're going to shift the decimal point. So 1, 2, 3. Our decimal point ended after 5. So our answer for the second question is 1,675. So I'm writing down the answers 2 places just to make it more clear. And now let's do the third question. 3.15 times 10. So I'm going to write 3.15 times 10. Now let's count how many zeros there are. So there's 1 0, so that's how many times we're going to shift the decimal point to the right, and make sure you're shifting the decimal point to the right, not to the left. Every time you multiply, the answer will get bigger or higher. But when you divide, it gets lower. So we're not dividing over here, we're multiplying, so our answer will get higher. So the decimal point ended up after 1. So our answer for the third question is 31.5. Alright, so let's do the fourth question now. So the fourth question says 7.12 times 1,000. It's the exact same thing. We have to do the exact same thing again. 7.12 times 1,000. Now, let's count how many zeros there are. So 1, 2, 3. There are 3 zeros. That means we're going to shift the decimal point 3 times to the right. And I'm going to write 7.12 over here so that it will be easier to shift. So 1, 2, 3. Well, what number do we put this after? Like, what number do we put the decimal point after if there's nothing here? Actually, there is something there, but then we just don't write it because we don't need it. And the answer would be, or the number over here would be 0. So any decimal point, if it's like 7.12, let's just say, there will be millions and infinite number of zeros after the 2. Zeros have no value, so even if you write 1,000 times, the number doesn't change. It will still be 7.12 or 7 and 12 hundredths. So we can just write it as 7.120 and then shift the decimal point. So our answer for the fourth question is not 7 point, but 7,120. Alright, so I want to do another question like this. I'm just gonna go over here. So what if the question was like, let's just say 7 times 100? Well, we'll know it's 700, but what if it's like point 0.7 times 100? Well, then we count the number of zeros there are, and then, so there are 2 zeros, so we're gonna shift it to the right 2 times, and our answer would be 70. Alright, so let's go to the word problem now. So the word problem says, one roll of tape from Walmart is 6.78 meters long. How long will 100 rolls of tape be? So one roll equals 6.78. 100 rolls would be how much? So they're asking how many meters will 100 rolls of tape be? So we would have to multiply 6.78 times 100. So we've learned a method about shifting the decimal, so we're going to use that. So there are 2 zeros in 100, so we have to shift the decimal point 2 times to the right. So see, we did it very quickly. So our answer for the word problem would be 678 meters. And let me just write it down in a sentence. So 100 rolls of tape will be 678 meters. And I'm just gonna box it so that you know it's the answer. And then I'm just gonna underline 678. Alright, now it's problem time. So what you guys do in this is pause the video and answer the questions. So once you're done with it, you just you unpause and check if your answers are right or wrong. And yeah, so you have to do all these 4 questions. I'll assume that you guys paused the video and let's get started. So the first question says 1.2368 times 1,000. So it's the same process and it's pretty simple. Count the number of zeros, well there are 3, and then now shift the decimal point 3 times to the right. So this is 1, this is 2, now over here. So that would be 3. Our answer for the first question would be 1,236.8. I'm just going to write it down over here. Alright, let's do the second question now. The second question says 6.87 times 100. So let me just write 6.87 and then times 100. Now let's count the number of zeros there are. So 1, 2. Now we have to shift the decimal point 2 times to the right to find the answer. So 1, and then 2. Our decimal point ended up after 7, so our answer would be 687. Okay, now let's do the third question. The third question says 7.89 times 10. So I'm going to write 7.89 times 10. Let's count how many zeros there are. 1. So there are no more zeros. So we have to shift the decimal point 1 to the right. After we did that, our decimal point ended up after 8, so our answer will be 78.9. And let me just write it over here. Okay, let's do the fourth question now. That's our final question for problem time. So the fourth question says 9.36 times 100. So I'm just going to write it over here now. Okay, let's count how many zeros there are. 1, 2. So let's shift the decimal point 2 times to the right. And I found out that the decimal point ends up after 6. So our answer would be 936. The answer for the fourth question would be 936. As you can see, multiplying decimals with 10, 100, 1,000, or any multiples of 10 or 100 is pretty simple. You don't have to multiply using the actual way, like 2.8 times 10. So you don't have to do 10 times 8, 10 times 2, and then add it. It's pretty simple, and you should always use this method. And comment down below how many questions you got right from problem time, and thanks for watching.
Like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, click the notification bell to get notified on our new videos.